This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
You're welcome back to the conversations here on Now Breakfast. The Dangote Refinery has confirmed that it is increasing its production capacity to 700,000 barrels per day. Full capacity is expected to be reached by the fourth quarter of this year. Consequently, the ongoing modification means that the refinery will operate at a reduced capacity. We're joined on the conversation this morning by Ayodele Oni. Mr. Oni is an oil and gas expert. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Can we start out by getting your thoughts on the Dangote refineries, just what they're doing to increase their capacity?
Well, it's a good thing. I mean, it means as a country we're more competitive when it comes to even being net exporters of crude. Also, we'd be able to, even the bragging right has been one of the largest refineries in the world. I think it'll be around the maybe even fifth or fourth or something, because I think it was the seventh. But as a single train refinery is the largest. But being a refinery purely speaking, it was about the seventh, but it'll move up a bit. So it gives us a bragging right. We can even be able to be a net exporter, and even locally it'd be good for us. And with some of these plans around cutting off the middlemen, would increase prices by 30 to 40%. I mean, there are the negatives, of course. Debates around monopoly and around middlemen and certain other people losing their jobs. Those are challenges. Of course, we've got the regulators that look into unfair market prices practices, and they can determine whether that's the case.
Just to give our listener context, since you started talking about cutting off the middlemen, as we understand it, the Dangote Refinery is likely to reduce the ex-depot price, essentially the price of petrol, even at pumps across the country, by the 15th of August, I think is the date that they have. And this reduction, this intended reduction, is going to be carried out because the refinery is releasing up to 4,000 CNG-powered trucks that would move the product across the country. Mr. Oni, this allows us to speak about a development, I think this was either a week ago or so, where the refinery suspended the bonanza it had in place, which was giving its buyers the chance to purchase at a reduced rate in order to increase, or rather influence, the reduction of prices across the country. And what they found out was that they would buy at that reduced rate and divert it to other guys who are not subscribed, for lack of a better way to put it, to the Dangote Refinery. So he's cut that off. And it's the tale of fuel subsidy all over again. We saw that across the country when it was just the government who was involved in the sector in this way. Can you speak to us? You've just started talking about the regulator. Can you speak to us on what options they have to be able to mitigate this, as Dangote, whether altruistically or not, tries to push down the price of the product in the country?
Okay, the challenge always is with us as Nigerians. I think the regulator needs to do more around checking on fair market practices. Even from a Dangote standpoint, we need to inquire into what exactly it is that is being done. Because if you begin to then say you're giving discounts or you are subsidizing, you suggest as though you want to get certain people out of the market and then dominate the market. Because if you are subsidizing, that means anybody else who's competing or who's trying to do the same can't even compete, can't even sell. And at some point they'd be out of the market, and then you may go back to what the price actually should be. When I did see that story, I was taken aback a bit myself, So that's on one hand. On the other hand, once you typically have contracts where they say we sell at X and then you will sell at a particular margin. If people breach those contracts, then they can actually be sued. And from a regulatory standpoint, there are provisions in the PIA around market fairness and all of those. And the Ministry and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority does have the powers. They just need to do more. But that even said, it's also a Nigerian thing. We need reorientation because no matter how hard the regulators try, they can't be everywhere. They can't be with every marketer, So if people do not understand that they are doing a big disservice to the country as a whole, then it becomes a problem. If people think only about profitability, but if someone's selling to you and you agree a margin or you agree to sell a particular third party or in a particular manner, and you then go on to do what you like, you can't then hold government responsible in that circumstance. Right. So it's a hydra-headed problem, and it's across the value chain.
So, Mr. Oni, as we wrap this conversation, in getting to 700,000 barrels per day, the Dangote Refinery will reduce their current production capacity. Is there a short-term effect of this reduction on, I guess, fuel availability in Nigeria?
Sorry, could you come again on that question? I lost that.
The Dangote Refinery says that as they move towards improving their capacity, at the moment, they'll be operating at a slightly reduced production capacity than where they are right now. I'm wondering if there is, and if you think there's going to be an effect on the availability of fuel or the ability to continue to supply to meet up with the market demands.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be substantial. Yes, it appears to be the case. Anytime you have such an arrangement in place, you need to maybe reduce for a short period of time, or for as long as it will take for you to be able to ramp up. Now, I think that it will be minimal, and we already see that data shows that we don't use as much petroleum products as we said we did use. I think what he may consider doing, and I don't know for a fact, is to reduce what's currently exported and then ensure, because almost everyone in Africa imports, right? And I understand that some of them are already importing from him, even outside of Africa. And a number of refineries have shut down. So he may have to reduce imports unless, of course, he's got long-term contracts or mid-term contracts if they are not spot arrangements. He may have to reduce that, or it would have a small impact locally. Also because the refineries that are supposed to go, government refineries, are even working. So, yeah, but I'm sure they'll look for the optimal way of doing it so that the effect is very minimal. But yes, it could have an effect.
Mr.
Unless, of course, it then diverts export petroleum products, rice products for local use.
Right. Mr. Oni, thank you very much for your time and your expertise on this conversation. Ayodele Oni is an oil and gas expert who joined us this morning to speak on the Dangote Refineries announcing that it will be upgrading its facilities to 700,000 barrels per day production. At the same time, this will see a slightly reduced production capacity from where it stands at the moment. You're still listening to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. We urge you to stay tuned. Naira and Kobo, the prices of foodstuffs in the market, comes up in just a short while.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.